Okay, hello, good morning. Hopefully you can all hear me all right. I know there's a few people joining us over the next few minutes. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction to today's webinar. So today's webinar is all about hashtag strategy for publicans. So if you've been wondering what are hashtags, how should I be using them, what are the best ways of researching new hashtags, and why should I be using hashtags, then we're going to answer all of those questions over the next half an hour. Just a little bit of housekeeping first of all. So before we get started, I just want you to all check that you are on mute and to stay on mute throughout the call. I don't hear any background noise, so I'm guessing everybody has managed to find the mute button, which is the bottom of your screen. Also, if you have any questions as we're going through today's webinar, please feel free to use the chat box. You'll find that, I believe, over on the right-hand side of your screen. I don't actually see the chat box, so I have my colleague on the call as well, Richard, who will be interrupting me and letting me know if there have been any questions throughout. This live stream is being recorded and we will be sending around the record afterwards so that you can go back and see some of the notes and also what's been said. And also, we will distribute the deck. So this slideshow presentation will be sent around to you as well following today's webinar. So a little bit of an introduction to myself then. So many of you may have joined me for the last webinar, which I ran last month, which was all about Instagram and an introduction to Instagram for publicans. My name is Alison and I run a social media consultancy called Avocado Social. Over the past 10 years, I've been working in social media. So I've worked for projects including brands like Tesco, Estee Lauder, Brita, Wagamama. I've also been working with a number of hospitality brands and other pub groups as well. So lots of experience, and hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions which you might have during today's webinar. So let's get started then. This is exactly what we're going to be covering today. What are hashtags? Why use hashtags? How many hashtags? How to research hashtags? And some extra tips and tricks for you, followed by a Q&A. So as I said previously, if you do have any questions as we're going through, do feel free to drop those into the chat box and my colleague Richard will make sure that they are answered. So first of all, what are hashtags? So hashtags are a phenomenon in social media which actually started on Twitter, but have come over onto other platforms such as Instagram. The only platform I'd say which hashtags don't really get used on is Facebook. People don't really like to see big groups of hashtags on Facebook, so I would avoid using hashtags there. But on Instagram, hashtags are very much a clear way of gaining awareness and engagement on your posts. Hashtags essentially make your content easier to find. So they can be a word, a combination of words, numbers, and even emojis, all preceded by the hashtag symbol. And the important thing to remember is that you shouldn't use any spaces at all, because the minute you put a space into a hashtag, that word breaks the hashtag, and so that space breaks the hashtag, so the word doesn't then get categorized. So the way that they make your content easier to find is that if you put a hashtag either on a post in the caption or in the comments, then that post will be sort of ranked within Instagram. Users will be able to discover that content based on a search. So if somebody searches for a hashtag using the search bar at the top of Instagram, then they'll find a results page with all of the hashtags, all of the posts containing that hashtag on it. Anyone who also clicks on a hashtag on another post will also find that results page. And you can use the search bar at the top of your Instagram app or on desktop to type in words, like I've got here in this example, local pub, and that will show you all of the suggested hashtags that are similar to your search query. This is what a results page looks like on the app. So you can see here I've searched for the hashtag UK pubs. And on a results page, you can get so much information. First of all, you'll see a collection of what's called the top posts. So you can see in the first screenshot here, these are the top posts on Instagram which contain the hashtag UK pubs. And then the image next to that is showing us the most recent posts. So there's a difference between top and recent. I'm going to go into what top posts means in just a minute. You can also follow hashtags. So you can see there's a big blue follow button at the top of this hashtag page. And also that basically means that you will be served content from that hashtag within your feed. So when you're scrolling through your news feed, if you followed this hashtag UK pubs, you might suddenly see some content relating to UK pubs in your feed. Also, you'll notice there's a grey bar along the top of the results page, and this is called related. So these are hashtags that are often appearing next to the hashtag which I've searched for. So when people use the hashtag UK pubs, they typically also use a similar hashtag like pub life or London bar. So that's another great way of finding hashtags to use, by using the related section. You can also go through the top posts here and see which hashtags they used. So that might be a good idea and good kind of practice to get some fresh hashtag ideas. Why should you use hashtags then? Well, if you include the right hashtags on your posts, you will likely see a much higher engagement rate than you would if you didn't have any. Your posts will be found by more people who are searching for relevant things, and therefore your pub will be exposed to a much larger audience, or a more targeted audience as well. When you search through hashtags, you'll suddenly find a huge amount of content around the subject to which you might be looking for. And also, people are beginning to use hashtag searches to start to design their weekends or their evenings, to research into things to do in local areas as well. How high up on a hashtag page your post appears depends on a few things. So if you've used the hashtag, for example, we've got here pub lunch. Pub lunch has 139,000 posts on Instagram. And to make sure that you are beginning to appear in the results pages, it really depends on how often that hashtag is used. So if that hashtag is used a lot, then it's going to be much more competitive. Therefore, it's going to be harder to get your content on that results page. Now, that doesn't mean that you should just use really tiny hashtags, niche hashtags that aren't used very much. But I would say it's about using a blend. It also depends on how popular your post is. So if your post receives a lot of likes and comments in quite a short amount of time, it will be categorized as a top post. So it will be fed into the top area of that hashtag results page. It also depends on when you shared it. So if you shared something a while ago, it's probably not going to appear on recent, but it might appear on top if it's had lots of likes and comments. It also depends on the strength of your audience. Do you have a large and engaged audience? And if you do, and if they're regularly clicking and engaging on your content, then your post is much more likely to receive the top post category. The higher your post appears on these results pages, the better, as this is the way your posts become more discoverable by people who don't already follow you. And remember, you can use these results pages to search for content and search for content to engage with as well. So if you wanted to have conversations with brewers or other pubs or other people who are interested in craft beer, for example, just searching for hashtags will allow you to discover lots of new people you didn't already follow. So how many hashtags? This is the question I get asked a lot. You can post up to 30 hashtags. You can either put those in your caption or in the comments on your own post. In this example, which I'm showing you, a delicious plate of fruit, I've used 30 or so hashtags, I think maybe 25, and you can see it does look quite overwhelming. So a big chunk of hashtags can look a little bit spammy on a post. Many businesses don't, however, post any hashtags, which means they're missing out on a huge opportunity for growing awareness and building engagement. You'll also notice in this particular post, I have actually spaced my hashtags out separately to what I'm saying in my caption. And this is a good strategy because it means that your post is a lot clearer and easier to read. If you put your hashtags in between your post in the copy, it can be quite distracting for somebody to read your post from beginning to end. So if you can space them out, then I would say that's a really good strategy to use. Some people use full stops as well to make sure that the hashtags kind of appear a little bit lower down, but they're using the full stop so that they can get a fresh line break. I've used an external app to schedule this post. So I use buffer.com, which is a great scheduling tool, and it also allows for you to have new paragraph breaks without having to put a full stop in. So how many hashtags? Well, the number of hashtags per post really does range, and the average tends to be around 9 or 10, which most businesses are using. Although you can use up to 30, as you can see in my previous post, the majority of businesses tend to stick to around 10 hashtags. I'm guessing because that means it doesn't necessarily look that overwhelming, that spammy, and also that seems to get the highest average engagement rate per post as well. Now, you might have seen some people posting their hashtags in the comments. And that isn't wrong at all. In fact, it's a great strategy because it means that your hashtags are slightly more separate to your caption. This is a great example from Hawksmoor, which is a restaurant in the UK selling steak and specialising in meat. So I've suggested that you shouldn't clutter your content, your caption. Keep the reader focused on what's important, which is your compelling caption, your story. Post your hashtags in the comments, and posting your hashtags in the comments means your caption is more powerful and your post is more aesthetically pleasing because it doesn't have a huge chunk of hashtags clogging it up. And all you would do here is simply write out or copy and paste your hashtags into a comment on your own post. So it's really up to you how you prefer to post your hashtags, whether that's in your caption or in your comments. Both will work successfully at ranking your post within those results pages we looked at earlier. Now, at this stage, I'm just going to remind everybody who is using Instagram on this webinar that they should be using a business profile. Ensuring you're using a business profile is important because it gives you access to crucial insights. And these are the insights that are going to tell us whether or not our hashtags are actually working. A business profile can also advertise. And also you have the ability to schedule posts via a third-party app. So you could use an app like Buffer, Hootsuite, or Planoly to be able to plan content for your Instagram and schedule it so you don't need to be worrying about being on Instagram every day posting. So once you have access to a business account, which you can create just simply by switching over in your settings, you will have access to Post Insights. And Post Insights will tell you exactly how many impressions you have received on your post and how many came from the insights. So just looking over on the right-hand side here, you can see this plate of fruit post. Underneath it, it has some blue writing which says View Insights. And you can view the exact insights on every individual post you've ever done just simply by clicking on this View Insights button. View Insights will open up a new page of insights you can see over on the right here. And this will give you a breakdown as to how much engagement your post received. You can see, just scrolling down a little bit further here, that 6,190 accounts were reached with this post, and 87% of those people weren't already following me. So this was a great way of reaching a brand new audience for my business. Now you can see I did only gain 2 new followers from this post, but every little helps. Underneath that, you can see that from my post, of this 6,860 impressions of the post, so that means how many views the post actually had, 5,862 came because of those hashtags which I used. So if I hadn't have used those hashtags, the viewing of this post and the engagement would have been a lot lower. Now let's just go back and remind ourselves the hashtags which I used. So I used a group of very specific nutritional, healthy, and influencer-based hashtags because I was talking about health trends on Instagram, and I was talking specifically about fitness influencers in this post. So because the hashtags are really relevant to what I'm talking about and also what the photograph contains, that means engagement has been a lot higher on this particular post. So do go and check out the insights on some of your most successful posts and start to understand how people may have discovered your posts. Another thing to add, and you might not know this one, is that you can add hashtags to Instagram stories. So there are 2 ways which you can add hashtags to Instagram stories. The first is by using a sticker, like we see on the right-hand side here in the example, which uses hashtag craft beer. You can also simply type out your hashtag using the text function on a story. On the left-hand side here, you'll see brewery life has simply been typed out. You can add up to 10 hashtags on a story, but do take care because 10 hashtags on a story can look a little overwhelming, and be careful not to clutter your content with hashtags. So some techniques which people use is by shrinking their hashtags, so pinching the text or the sticker on the screen, using your finger and your thumb to make them tiny so that they can be hidden quite easily in somewhere across your story. You could also think about hiding your hashtags behind an emoji or a sticker or a GIF. So there are lots of different ways that you could utilize hashtags. And if you are using hashtags in your stories, it means that those stories will appear on the results pages. So where should you start to think about researching hashtags? Again, this is a common question I'm asked a lot about hashtags. How do you find them? How do you know which ones to use? And I would say as a first point of call, you should be looking at what your competitors and just other pubs that you follow on Instagram, what are they using? So you could use the hashtag UK pubs and search for pubs across the country to see exactly what kind of hashtags they're using. You can see some great ones being used here by the Eagle in Sheffield. I quite like the ones they have created around hunger strikes, hangry, and feed me, as well as Sheffield Eats. So hopefully they're showing up across people's Instagram feeds who are searching for things to eat. The other thing you can do is, of course, use that search bar at the top of the Instagram app. If you type in your city or your region, followed by the word pub, see what comes up. Do make sure that you've switched to the tab, which is called tags. So you can see there's 4 tabs across the top. We've got top, accounts, tags, and places. And you want to make sure you're looking in the tags list. That will show you all of the relevant tags that exist on Instagram that are similar to your search term. So in the example here, we've got Edinburgh pub, and similar hashtags have come up: Edinburgh pubs, Edinburgh pub crawl, Edinburgh pub quiz, Frankenstein pub Edinburgh, don't know what that is, and Edinburgh pub signs. You can see that there is a varying level of amounts of posts here. So Edinburgh pubs has over 1,000 results, whereas Edinburgh pub signs has fewer than 100 posts. So I'd probably go with the larger one here in this instance. Start to search for relevant words relating to your pub and also your city or region as well, just to see what does appear in Instagram. As I was mentioning before, each hashtag has a number of posts underneath it. So when you type something like beer garden, you'll see beer garden itself has 947,000 posts, whereas beer gardens has 31.9 thousand, and so on. This showcases how many posts exist on Instagram tagged with the hashtag. And my suggestion is to use a mixture of both popular hashtags and some more niche ones as well. So looking at this chart, using an effective hashtag mix essentially means taking a few from the top, a few from the bottom, and a few from the middle. In this example, you can see the hashtag avocado has nearly 10 million uses on Instagram now. Whereas something more niche like avocado life or avocadolicious has a lot less, a lot fewer. So I would have a think about maybe using a mixture. I would go for a few more niche ones, a few large ones, and then the majority of the hashtags you'll want to be somewhere in the middle. 50,000 to 500,000 is a good kind of average approximate to go for in terms of how large your hashtags are. So next, have a think about your USPs. Use hashtags which relate to your pub's unique selling points. What is it about your pub that somebody might be searching for, or somebody might come across on Instagram and think, oh yes, I really want to go there? Is it something to do with your setting, where you're based? What's within your land? Maybe you've got a really nice beer garden, a stream, an outdoor barbecue. Perhaps it's about the decor inside. Maybe you're a more traditional pub, or maybe you're a bit of a modern pub, more of a gastro pub. Think about your exact location of where you're based, the local area, the landmarks in your local area, or tourist spots which tourists might be coming to in your local area. Think about the food which you serve as well, and whether there's any related hashtags to that. Think about the beer that you have and the specific types of beers and just general drinks that you might be offering. And then also, what is it that's special? What's special about perhaps what you've got on tap, what it is about your pub that people come to as well, maybe any awards that you might have won. All of these would be relevant hashtags to use. So in these examples, we searched for real ales as a hashtag and came across this pub, which is in Derbyshire, in Chesterfield, using lots of different hashtags around this particular type of cask ale. On the right-hand side, this particular post from the Red Lion is talking about their local area in Margate. Beer. Also, we've got pickled eggs, pickled and preserved, because they're talking about an oozy soft boiled pickled egg, which they've got on the bar. In this particular post, International Beer Day, which was a trending hashtag across Instagram on the 2nd of August, This particular pub has used a number of beer-related hashtags, which are very well known across Instagram, as well as naming the beer and the beer name itself. They've also got hashtags in there relating to where they are based, West Sussex. In this particular post, we are looking at an example of a chicken balti. I really like the way they've photographed this balti. It looks like it might even be photographed on a hedge, but really bright colours that are coming through. And then this particular pub has used their name, their pub name, as a hashtag, which is a really good idea to have a number of branded hashtags in your post. So they've said the covered wagon and the wagon grill are their two branded hashtags. They've also got one right at the end, which I like, get to the wagon, which they should also be using off the wagon, I think. And you can see throughout the post, they've got a number of hashtags relating to food, pub, and then the exact recipe, chicken curry, chicken balti. And then they've got the location, so Birmingham pubs. We've also got curry, chef's cook, mixed grill. And then this is an interesting food-related hashtag that does very well on Instagram. It's eats with actually 5 E's at the beginning of the word eats. So for some reason, that's a very well-known food hashtag, which a number of different restaurants and hospitality brands use. There's a number of other pubs hashtags there, but I really like the way that they've also used Indian food and Indian food in Moseley as well, which are hashtags which their audience may well be searching for if they're looking for somewhere to go for Indian food. And then I really liked this example as well, which is from the Prince Albert in Camden. They've used an A board here, and that's, you know, a very common thing for pubs to use, quite funny mottos, jokes, or just philosophical quotes on pub signs. And actually the hashtag pub sign and pub signs, they're very well known on Instagram, and lots of people will be looking at them on a regular basis. So if you are doing some art or some particular quotes or mottos within your pub, photograph them and get them on Instagram. So this pub does regular pub signs, and also they've included their branded hashtag here, the Prince Albert _Camden. They also have lane pubs here, and also Camden and Camden Town. So a number of kind of branded hashtags and location related hashtags in there, as well as what's relating to in the image. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of inspiration around the sorts of hashtags you should be thinking about using. You can see on average other pubs are using hashtags in different ways, some in the comments, some in the caption with a bit of spacing, as we were talking about earlier, and then the Prince Albert using those 4 full stops there to get that spacing between the caption and their hashtags. So there's different ways that you can do it. I would suggest that whichever way you pick, you stick to it consistently, and you just get into a bit of a rhythm and flow so that everybody can sort of see your posts clearly and read them really effectively. And then my final example for you is a sausage roll. I love a sausage roll. And one of the hashtags I really, really liked here, it made me laugh, was the final one they've used, pastry for the gods. So you can absolutely add in a couple of hashtags which are more humorous and comical, which hopefully your audience will enjoy as well. There are some more examples in here for you to have a look at. But for now, I'm going to, first of all, ask my colleague Richard whether there have been any questions in the chat box, or if you yourself have a quick question, now is the time to ask. Richard.
So we've got some people typing at the moment, some questions coming through. The first question I had is it good practice to use the same hashtags repeatedly, or should I vary the use of hashtags?
That's a really good question. It's actually against Instagram's terms to copy and paste exactly the same hashtags on every single post. Now, there will be some cases where you use the same ones every time, perhaps the name of your pub, the location, and that's absolutely fine. It's as long as every single hashtag isn't exactly the same on every single post. The reason Instagram doesn't like that is because it makes you look like a spam account. So my advice would just be to mix it up. And you might want to sometimes use your branded ones at the beginning, sometimes at the end, and just add in more that are related to the photograph itself as well.
Fantastic. The next question we have is, where can we go to find popular hashtags without searching each one?
There are a couple of websites you can go to. So there's a website called Top Hashtags, which lists out some of the most popular hashtags around the world. And there's another hashtag website I use called Hashtagify Me. I'm going to send you guys the links to both of these websites. The danger with using these websites is that there's a lot of spam hashtags on them. Things like Instagood or Top Pick are very spammy hashtags. And if you use them, you may get notified by Instagram that you are using spammy behavior. So just be aware of not using hashtags that are kind of completely irrelevant to the pub industry. I think the best way of finding hashtags is go and type in UK pubs, go through the top posts and see what hashtags other pubs have used. Just start to make a little list yourself in the Notes app on your phone or in a Google document so that you can just quickly categorize your hashtags together. And then you'll have this document with your research in it wherever you go. So you can copy and paste hashtags from that into some of your posts.
Fantastic. And we have also compiled a short list of some of the best pub hashtags to use, which we can share with you as well.
We have. So we'll be giving out a free cheat sheet for you guys, which has some of the best pub hashtags in it, as Richard said.
Fantastic. The next question we've got is, if I add a hashtag to a story, where does this show in Instagram?
So yeah, this is a really good question, and I'm actually just going to show you on one of my previous images here. When you create a story on Instagram and then you use the hashtag, that result should show on the results page. So where there's a little logo at the top of this example, UK pubs, you can see that there is no pink ring around the logo here. Whereas if we go a little bit further and look at pub lunch, you'll see there is a pink ring around this logo and a hashtag symbol. And that pink ring indicates that there are fresh Instagram stories which have the hashtag pub lunch within them. Whereas UK pub doesn't have any stories at the moment. So always look out for that pink ring. That's where your stories would show if you'd used this hashtag.
Fantastic. The other question that's just come through is there any downside to using Instagram, to using hashtags?
I would say no. I cannot think of a downside. I mean, the only thing I'd just be wary of is if you perhaps didn't research a hashtag properly and you maybe didn't realize that it spelt out something different to what you thought, or it was a complicated acronym that actually spelt out a rude word or something that could be potentially damaging to your brand. Other than that, I don't think there is any downside. They're only going to increase your awareness and engagement. I think why not? It's a completely free strategy to use, and it means that you don't necessarily have to spend so much on advertising. So the opportunity for you to use hashtags to get your content out there is there for you to take. So I'd say, why not go ahead and do it?
Fantastic. And the last one relates to the branded hashtag that you showed earlier. Would you say that it's good practice to create your own hashtag and start using it?
Yeah, I would. And the reason is because if you start using a branded hashtag, so a hashtag with your pub name in it, your customers will hopefully do the same as well. The thing I really like in this example is that the Prince Albert and Camden are promoting their hashtag on their boards. Hopefully that hashtag is visible around the pub itself, which means customers will be taking images, uploading them using the hashtag, which means you would have more content to use. You could share some of your customers' images.
Brilliant. And is there any way to control that user-generated content?
There's no way to control it in terms of stopping people from being able to post certain things. However, if you really like something, that I would say definitely share it back to your profile. So you could just screenshot it and share it on your own feed. Of course, tag in the original author of that post. And sometimes it's worth just double checking that they're happy for that photo to be shared. So you could drop them a quick DM as well.
Fantastic. We've had another question through, which is, can I do one post to appear in both Instagram and Facebook?
You can. So there are a number of ways you can do it. You could use the share button within Instagram itself, which will allow you to share something directly over to Facebook. Or you could use a scheduling tool like Zapier, Zapier, which will automatically put your Instagrams onto Facebook. There's one caveat I would say here. Remember, people don't love hashtags on Facebook. So if you've put your hashtags in your caption on Instagram, they will post over to Facebook and they won't look great. So if you were using this strategy, I would say you'd have to add your hashtags as a comment on Instagram manually.
Fantastic. So I think we've got time for one more question if anyone has got anything else they want to ask. But if not, I think we will wrap up there.
Yeah, I'll make sure that we include some links to the tools and the hashtag websites we were discussing, as well as that Instagram hashtag cheat sheet for you all. In the meantime, if you want to stay in touch with us, you are all welcome to come and join our Facebook hub. This is a free Facebook group which is for support and help for anybody working in social media or running a business and trying to work out social media. We also run a blog, a very active blog, where you can see a couple of months ago we did write a post all about 5 easy ways to research new Instagram hashtags. So there is a link to that blog post in the slide deck. And you can also come and follow us on Instagram as well, where we share top tips and breaking news. So please do stay in touch, and we'll see you again next month for our next webinar. Thank you so much for listening and have a great day.